first sign of symptoms to last is about 24 hours.
How were symptoms then?
Fever and chills and
I
shaking.
was wishing my wife would get me a brush for Valentine's Day, but
But
she
then it
didn't.
was it. Barely any cough.
You just never know, do you?
I know. I mean, Kayla's cough has been much worse than mine was.
All right. All right, let's go ahead and get started. If you would, please stand for the pledge and prayer.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we pray. Our Heavenly Father, once again, we're gathered in this setting of the school board meeting tonight. I pray that you would be with us, that you'd give us sound mind. God, I pray that you would give us discernment, God, here tonight. I pray that you would be with each one of our parents. God, I pray that you'd be with our kids and our faculty and our staff and our whole community. God, I pray that you would bind us together. And Lord, I pray that we'd be about your will and be doing what you would have us to do. God, once again, that we pray for safety. We pray for traveling mercies. We pray for our sports teams that are playing. God, I pray that you would be with each one of them. And God, tonight, once again, that you would be with us as we make such important decisions regarding the safety of our kids. And Lord, that we always put them in the forefront of our minds. Lord, and most of all, that we put you in the forefront of our minds. And Lord, we do ask all these things in your precious holy name. Amen.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Mr. Self, do we have any changes to the agenda other than what we got right here?
No, you have a reorganized agenda in front of you now. I don't know of any changes that need to happen to that. I would explain to you that in the consent agenda tonight are the minutes from the previous meeting and also what is known as the small county low wealth signing bonus. That is largely a notification to the board. We're extending it to you for your blessing as an approval item in the consent agenda. We don't technically have to do that according to law. But that signing bonus is new with this year's budget from Raleigh. It is a matching bonus for certified teachers and instructional support for those who have signed on with us for the first time. It's a matching up to $1,000. And we have 11. We have 11 teachers who will be receiving that because they signed on with us this year for the first time. Now, some stipulations on that would be if someone comes to us who has already received that, they can't receive it again. And if they leave us and go somewhere else, they can't receive it there. Okay. This particular signing bonus is not only in this year's budget, but is in next year's as well as part of the state biennium budget. Does that make sense to you? Make sense? Yep. That's in the consent agenda. Now, if you want to discuss that some more, we can pull it out and put it into the discussion, but that's up to y'all.
Is that for all faculty or just
That is for all certified teachers
teachers?
and instructional support.
That just signed on this year.
That signed on this year.
By October 1st. And it's a 1-to-1 match.
Yes.
Okay, unless you want to pull it out, I have a motion then to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right, you have a second to that?
You second.
Second. All in favor, by show of hands? Motion's carried. All right, we go into discussion items. Mr. Sell.
One of the things that we're going to do differently tonight and follow this pattern into the future is to recognize more students and more staff during our board meetings, because I think that one of the pieces that we need to celebrate are the accomplishments of the school system, and those come in such varied places. So tonight I have asked for our Swain Middle School girls cross-country team to come and let us recognize them. So if you were a member of the Swain Middle School girls cross-country team, would you come up here and stand for us, please, and maybe drag your coaches with you? one of the coaches here needs to introduce who these girls are, please. No pressure.
Hi, I'm Coach Lucas, Megan Lucas. These girls, these are just a few of them, and some of them, they've been with us since 6th grade. Audrey Monteith and Sarah Cook, Lily Frizzell, Juliana Merez-Chiata, Emily Gray Stargell, Angelina Lamelli, and of course, Annie Lewis, who's not only just the team champion, but the individual overall conference champion for the girls cross country for our whole conference.
So congratulations to y'all. Now, ladies, is this the whole team?
It's not the whole team, you know, we're missing a few girls.
Okay, so, Ms. Lucas, what I need from you is a list of who the team members are, and include you and that guy beside you there, all right? And shirt sizes, and we will supply for you shirts to honor what you have achieved this year. How many of you are in the 7th grade? 8th grade? Anybody in the 6th grade? Wow. Awesome. So we've got a strong team for the future. Thank you all for coming. Would y'all like to say anything to these young ladies?
We're very proud of what you accomplished, and stay with it. I've never seen so much excitement in cross-country and indoor track, and in track in general. And I promise you, I'm gonna make a promise here. This board, I'm speaking, and they can promise the same thing. We're gonna get you a track as quick as we can. You need a track, not for cross-country, but you just need a track. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you all so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And we have a young man who we haven't had the opportunity to honor yet, and that is Connor Brown. Connor, would you come on? Come on up here and let us see you. I know that's really what you want to do. Mr. Brown is our boys varsity high school cross-country champion for the Smoky Mountain Conference, and we have neglected to honor him yet, so forgive us for that, but congratulations. What year are you, Connor?
Sophomore.
Sophomore. So you've got 2 more years to wear the crown again.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I know that you'll work hard towards that. Connor, thank you so much. We're proud of you, and we salute you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Connor, what size t-shirt are you?
One.
See if you've got one in there. If you don't, we'll get you one tomorrow. Okay? Thank you. We'll have some other presentations along the way so that you can enjoy what we're doing in the school system as we also do a little bit of work. Okay?
His dad told me he was gonna give a speech. That's what I was waiting
Oh,
on.
really? No. We would love for you to. We have been having Ms. Frost come in to give us a COVID report. Originally, it was Allison Cochran, but she stepped in at the dark side, I guess. And Amber has taken her place. So Amber's going to come and talk to us from the county perspective, and then after that, Amy Smith, who is our COVID coordinator, and Brandon Smith are going to come, and they're going to talk to us about where we are with COVID in the school system.
Sorry I didn't get here early to give you my papers. So short and sweet, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've had 3,509 positive cases of COVID and 42 deaths. 6 of those deaths have occurred since the last time I presented to you. We currently have outbreaks in 3 of our congregate living long-term care centers. And this time I broke down the cases over the last month by week. Since January 15th to February 12th, we've had 505 cases. 148 of those were the first week, 176 in the second week, 123 the third week, and 58 this past week. So the numbers are coming down. You also have the chart where it's broken down by age, our total cases. And then on the back is the CDC chart that shows you the trend over time. So as you can see over here in the corner, we are coming down, but we're still pretty high. And compared to the peak that we had last year, we're just now getting down to the highest level of where we were before. There's been some updates to the North Carolina schools guidance, which I know some of the other staff are going to talk about. I did put a couple of the highlights on there. The guidance for the public is not changing. It's still 5 days for isolation if you're positive and 5 days of quarantine if you're exposed. So we're still doing that. We have 66% of the population of Swain County has had at least one dose of the COVID vaccine, and 56% have had a full series. Do you have questions?
Do you have any thoughts on what we should continue to do related to masks? Do you have a recommendation?
That's your decision, but cases are still kind of high right now, and the guidance is that you still mask in indoor settings. As I said, there's some guidance changes in the school's toolkit, so you don't have to do contact tracing for students in schools. And that'll be effective the 21st. It's not effective yet. Of February. So another week. They wanted to give us time to make changes and implement certain things before they made a go-live day on that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
So Brandon, and thank you, Amber. Brandon and Amy are going to come, and if you two would talk about where we are right now in the school system, what our numbers have been, and maybe give us, Brandon, if you could give us an update on how the toolkit has changed, please, effective the 21st.
So I've got my numbers on the phone here. So when I'm looking at numbers, I'm looking at our isolation tracker, which I've mentioned before. Amber Welch would have the numbers as far as county goes. What our isolation tracker is looking at mainly is who's excluded and when they return. So some of these can be sort of skewed. They don't always match perfectly, but it's pretty close. So let's move. We'll look at the week ending in 2/4. So we've got a total of 1,785 students. That week we had 1.74% of those students testing positive. This past week we've had 0.67% testing positive. So we feel like that's a good indication, just like with the county, that our numbers within the school system are also coming down. And then, of course, close contacts are coming down as well. And those will continue to come down as we don't have to exclude students. So we won't be tracking, we would be tracking maybe those that are exposed at home, but we wouldn't be tracking students who are exposed in the school setting because we're not going to be doing the contact tracing. So those numbers that we've been tracking, you won't have that anymore, but we would continue to track those positives. As far as staff members go, let's see, the last week it looks like we had 3 positives. The previous week we had 3 positives. That's a small percentage. So you're looking at less than 1% of your staff that's testing positive. So we do feel like those numbers are going to follow the trends that the state is seeing, that the county's seeing. Do you have any questions?
So on February 10th, the NCDHHS updated our strong schools guidance, And the big change is that quarantine is now only required for those that are with symptoms or confirmed positive, and that quarantine is 5 days. And then they have to wear a mask for 5 days after their 5 days of quarantine. Individual contact tracing and exclusion from school after exposure is no longer recommended. So we have been, if two parties were one was wearing they're wearing their mask in the setting, and one was positive, the other would not have to quarantine. Now it doesn't matter; they're not required to quarantine. Beginning February 21st, we're still under the old guidance until next Monday. But beginning next Monday, students in the school setting would not have to quarantine if they're identified as a close contact. Close contact tracing will change a little bit for us. We need to talk about that with Mark and have a plan. The state gives us 3 options. We're still required to notify a potentially exposed individual, but it can be through individual contact tracing, through like group, classroom, or as the whole school. We could just send out our weekly COVID numbers. CDC order still requires masking on public transportation, and as of today, that has not gone away in our guidance. Still recommended 3 foot of social distance if you can between students, and 6 foot between students and staff, and staff and staff. And we offer symptomatic testing at all the schools if parents consented. We still offer that at all the schools. Any questions?
Did they change any of the guidance on accepting that home test versus?
We will take a,
We do accept the home testing.
Okay.
Yeah, we are accepting those, and that changes because, and Amber can correct me if I'm wrong, but they are taking those right at this time.
that will not, a negative home test would not clear you to come back, but we accept them as a confirmed positive.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So, for clarification for me, okay, if a person tests positive, they are excluded for 5 days, correct? And when they come back, they're still expected to wear a mask for 5 days, correct?
That's correct. They would be required by our guidance to mask days 6 through 10.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
unless the days are on the weekend, and they'd be wearing a mask at home.
but we're talking about in our facilities.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the school setting, we would require that.
Okay. And we're still required by CDC to mask on public transportation. That means the yellow buses, white buses,
Yeah.
or any of our vehicles.
So as far as I know, we don't have a choice in that. That's a requirement.
Okay.
And what's our vaccination rate as far as staff? Do we have updated numbers on that?
Tommy, do you know our vaccination rate on staff? Do you know? I don't know. Any other questions?
All I can throw at you.
Done good.
Thank y'all.
With those changes, and with the fact that you as a board are required to have a vote of some sort about how you want to handle a masking procedure in our school system, we have pulled the mask approval back into the discussion phase and out of consent agenda for this month, okay? We thought that would be appropriate with these changes. So this would be a time, Mr. McKinney, when, according to the agenda, you could have a discussion about that as long as you want.
We had mentioned that we wanted to have a discussion. I'd like to hear from every board member, and we'll discuss it, and then it's on the agenda later that we can vote on it. So if, I guess for the order, we'll just start over here and come around and
I'm to the measure of taking the mask away, especially if we're a week away from the mandates as far as the quarantine, to close contacting. But I'm more to the point of, we said for probably 3 or 4 running months, that we were gonna keep the mask until we saw the opportunity that we could lift it and try it. So that being said, that if things go awry, we can do the same and come back and remask if our numbers just get totally absurd, faculty-wise, bus driver, cafeteria lady. So I'm in favor of going maskless and at least trying it on, for the safety of our kids, for, you know, for whatever reason, I'm open to really, end the mask mandate. That's my thoughts.
Okay.
You know, I think we've done everything above and beyond at this point to keep our kids safe. You know, as a school board, we've based our decisions on the CDC recommendations and on, you know, through this process. And I want to thank our faculty, our staff, our kids
Yes.
for, you know, doing the right thing, doing the best they can do. But I would love to make masks optional at this point. You know, some of this liability is going to be on the parents and the kids. So I mean, I think starting the 21st that maybe we should just do a optional mask. That's just my opinion. So, and then if the numbers, you know, the kids, if we get a large number of kids missing school due to COVID, then we can come back and look at it and go from there.
We're looking at, this has nothing to do with masks, we're looking at trying to expand in the middle school and tracks and all that right now. That is something that the board looks forward to, and that's something I just absolutely thrills me to death to do. This COVID thing has just absolutely been something.
It's terrible.
I can't afford to lose more years of my life, but it takes away from you. It is a stress on you. I think at the point with the good news, I think it is worth a try to look at a week from today, that's the 21st, of having masks optional. I would still like to see the requirement still to try to keep distancing. I'm not sure about buses. I think probably we need to stay with that because that's a mandate. But as far as the school is concerned, I think I would be a favor to try it. And as like Mitch said, if a week from that or 5 days from that, all of a sudden it blows up, then we'll have to go right back to it because we're going to protect kids and we're going to protect staff. And I think we tried our best and it has worked. So that's my say.
This is hard. I mean, nobody ever wants to, I mean, we've gone through a lot. Everybody's gone through a lot. Everybody's been sitting in this room, and parents and students, faculty and staff. It's been stressful, but I have, through this whole process, have listened to the healthcare providers who I trusted with my children as they were growing up, and I still trust. And with the numbers at just the point now where they were at the highest point last year, is still concerning to me. So I'm not going to act like it's not important, because I think it is important to know that we're still there. I don't want people to have to wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask anymore. But I think going without mask and then asking everybody to put them back on in a few weeks is going to be impossible. It's not going to be fair to the kids at that point either. So my thought is, let's stay the course where we're at. We've done a good job so far, keeping the kids in school, keeping the kids in activities. And I think we need to stay the course until there's a certain time that we see that the numbers are going significantly down. And, you know, if it's 1 week or 2 weeks or wherever we're at, but that's my thoughts for tonight.
Okay.
One of the hardest things about this is not only the consideration of the safety and the health and well-being of the faculty and the staff, it's really hard trying to maneuver around the rules. That's really what a lot of the decisions are when you end up closing classrooms down because the rules are what they are and the kids are having to go home and the parents or the faculty's having to go home because of the exposures. That's a very difficult thing, and that's a lot of what we've been dealing with here is fighting the rules. And this is one opportunity now, beginning on the 21st, the first light, if you will, at the end of the tunnel for the rules, that they have been lessened to a point that that is something that you don't necessarily have to fight against. And I think that's where we're at, is now we can truly focus on what we believe to be the best interest of the welfare, safety of the children and the faculty and the staff and everybody working in our school systems. And we're not having to fight the rules anymore. With that, I think it is a good opportunity for us to be able to ease any type of mask mandate that we may have. I think it's, I know that everyone's tired of it. We're at a point that obviously professionals across the world, and certainly with the new law that has been passed, are starting to see that as well. They're seeing that I believe that some of the comments that they made was that it's just not working, that contact tracing in the school system is not a viable option anymore. And so we have to trust the lawmakers in that, and I think that it's definitely time for us to at least look at it and reconsider it.
Can we take this time and hear from a few of our staff members that we've got?
It's your meeting. If you'd like to hear from staff members, that's fine.
If we got a staff member, we've got an open discussion later.
Okay.
But if we have some staff member that has a particular interest in it, if not, we do have when we get into the action item, after that, we do have a public comment section. If anyone signs up for that, and they're welcome to do that. We welcome public comment. Okay.
So that will need to come to a vote during the action
Right, we've
section.
got that on the
It's at the
agenda.
end of the agenda, and someone will need to make a motion and word it how you want it to work then, okay? I'm also planning on each month through May, bringing someone in, maybe through June, bringing someone in from our schools to talk about what our schools are doing. And I think that a good person to do that would be the principal of the school. So tonight, Sonia Blankenship is going to speak about the amazing things that are happening at the high school right now. I think that you're going to be very pleased with where they're going.
Thank you.
It's all right, you can use somebody else's birthday.
So, several things are going on well at the school, so I'll just kind of walk you through and take you through some of these things. The first sheet that I gave you with the numbers on it, one thing that I'm really excited about is we embarked on a new process this year with the professional learning communities and the professional learning teams. And I think that, you know, the high school we dove in and got our hands in it, and we're all over it and doing a really great job with it. And I just think that those numbers up there prove to you that that process is working. And that's been an investment from both the staff, the administration, from the school calendar. All that stuff has played an impact on that. In 2018-19, which when you talk about testing data, that was the last real set of data that they're saying was legit, because the following year is when we had first semester's data, and then we didn't have any the second semester because that was when we got shut down for COVID and we didn't test. So 2021 was last year, and of course that is where we're looking at only, you know, some schools didn't even go to school face-to-face, and then we were the 2 days a week and then 2 days online. And so I've got you tracking through there with the information. In Math 3, which is probably one of the most difficult courses that is required by high school students to have to take and pass. And we had, from 2021 to this fall, we had from 30 to 41% proficiency. So last year, with 2 days a week of instruction, 30% of our kids were proficient. This year, we're at 41. If you look all the way back there, that puts us right back on track where we were in 18-19. But the most promising number that you're looking right there is 63% of our kids grew. Mm-hmm. And that's based on the data that has kind of tracked these kids all the way through since third grade. So we're really excited. That's a really high number for growth numbers in a school and in a particular test this hard. English 2 saw much the same results, 51% last year with 2 days instruction, moved back up to 64%. 64% is actually one of our highest numbers that we've had in a very long time in the English category. And again, we had 64% growth. So 64% of our kids, regardless of what level they scored at, whether it be a 1 or a 5, they're still growing. So that's really good numbers for us. And then biology, the big number there was our proficiency. And we went from 48%, which was actually better last year with 2 days of instruction, to 60% this year. If you look on down there, and it says evals, that's the middle section of data, it's colored for you. I don't know that it's been a really, really long time since a high school has been in the green or the blue. At least 4 years it's been since we were there. And so 3 out of the 4 EOCs, we are there. We are meeting or exceeding growth. So we've done a little bit of digging and tried to figure that out. And kudos to Swain County School System for putting our kids back in school for 2 days a week, because this is comparative data to systems that didn't go to school, that they were doing the virtual stuff. So truly, we maintained and everybody else dropped. But we kept going the course because we were in school. So those are the things that we kind of, once you get in there and dig around and try to figure out the parts and pieces, that's what it comes down to. So that's, again, contributing to our PLT process. It's allowing our kids, our teachers to really look at students, individual students, what do they need. They've built common assessments, which is something that is really valuable in this process. So they've been spending their time doing that. Critical conversations. We've even been in some PLTs where we had some teeth gnashing and tears drawn and, you know, all those kinds of things. So it's been really good conversations centered around student growth and achievement. Critical conversations about that. So it's been really, really good for us. It's also led, we did something different at the high school this year. We created it's really not different. We just placed it in a different part of the schedule with a different intentional focus. We've called it career prep. I don't even know what all it's been called, but now it's called WIN, and it stands for what I need. But before, and somebody once described this as the big ugly amoeba, it was the everything, we do everything in that period. And this year we wiped all that clean and said our first and foremost focus is going to be on getting kids caught back up with this gap that we knew COVID brought on. And so we have a period of time, so the students have, the teacher goes in there and says, you're coming to me for the next 4 weeks and you're going to be working on this. And so that is what they have to do it. They don't get to choose outside of that. Well, if everything's good and they're caught up, they have lots of choice. And so it's like a club schedule with the other teachers. Mm-hmm. So every teacher has to offer something, whether it be a study hall, whether it be interventions, or whether it be a club. There's something out there for everybody. And kids can come and propose an idea to a teacher. For instance, we had some students who wanted to do an embroidery club. They're like, we want 30 minutes to embroider once a week. Had a teacher, it was just like, I'll sponsor that. And so now those kids get to go in there. So lots of student voice and choice, which is a big part of the high school Leader in Me process. So really excited about that. This past 2 weeks, the administration and the counselors have met with the 8th graders and their parents. We successfully had 88% of our 8th graders' parents actually attended those meetings, and this is comparable to what we did the summer before when we met with all the incoming freshmen, and we had 87% success rate with those meetings. But this time we felt like it was better to put it here because we were actually helping advise them in what they wanted to take in high school, but also just kind of laying out, here's what Swain County High School has to offer, because there's a lot of people that just don't know everything that we have. So that was really good for us. Had good conversations. We spent about 30 minutes with each individual family talking about what we had, asking them some questions, letting them ask us questions of concerns, and then we registered those 8th graders for classes. So one of the brochures that I brought to you, the reason that I brought it to you is we know that the success of high school is high school. The classes that you have to take, the required classes are required classes. Everybody's got to do it. But getting attached to the high school is going to be the success, and us to help us with our decrease our dropout rate and keep kids in school if we can get them involved. And so we've given them lots of opportunities. WIN has helped us do that. There really is something in that high school for every kid if they'll just come and give it a try. So that little Get Involved brochure is something that we use for that. On down through there, another big thing for us is the College and Career Promise and dual enrollment. And you can just see how our numbers, in fall of 2019, we had 71 students who signed up to do some dual enrollment classes. And then when we were in COVID year, which that was the 2 days a week, we dropped down to 40-some students there. This year, we had 100, and this was just for the fall semester, so I don't even have the spring semester data to share with you there. We had 152 kids sign up to do classes that are dual enrolled. That's time and money. 1,019 credit hours adds up to $77,444 saved by this community and the students that we serve. So we were really excited about that. We have mapped out a plan that students who we were approached and asked, I want my kid to get this. And so we've finagled some things, looked at some ways that we can do that. Our kids are now going to be able to attain an associate's degree. They'll actually get their degree from Southwestern Community College before they graduate on the stage from Swain County High School. It's going to take some extra work on the students' part. They're going to have to spend, maybe a couple summers doing a class or so. The best part, however, is that we have staff that they can do those classes face-to-face. So they're not going to go into necessarily have to go into an online classroom, which we do have and have it available. But we've got teachers on our staff who have a master's degree and can get vetted through Southwestern Community College, and so those kids are getting taught by our people and still earning those credits, which is huge. So at this point, I'm going to make a plug that if anybody's got any weight with any legislature out there, master's pay has to come back so that we can sustain this for our kids in this community. We're talking about saving hundreds of thousands of dollars for these kids in our community and giving them something that they can walk out and be employable from the second they walk out our door. So I just think that's super important for us to take advantage of at this time. Athletically speaking, we had 4 conference titles. This is just up to this point. We've had 4 conference titles, 3 runner-up conference titles, a regional title, and 2 state titles this school year. So we're pretty excited about that. If you haven't been to one of our band concerts, I highly encourage you to go to the spring band concert. This past weekend, we had 4 students participate in the All-Western, and one of our students, Avery Maples, was first chair, and will get the opportunity to go on and compete for the state all-district or all-state band. So that's a pretty big honor for her. And then Willy Wonka will be starting up in March. I think March 25th is the debut for that, so we definitely encourage you to attend that. Our World Language and Arts Department function as a professional learning team, and they are creating a collaboration event that will be an entire school cultural diversity awareness, and they are tapping into several different opportunities and options, and got a lot of things planned from them, from the music to the food to the arts and all sorts of things that they've got planned for a day. So when that gets closer, I will certainly send out an invitation so you guys can come up and be a part of that, because I think it's going to be a great day for us. Something that we have this year that's been really exciting and new is we now have a leadership class. The High School Leader in Me product or programs or whatever you want to call it is different for the high school. Definitely moving away from the language, the 7-habit language, and moving very much into action steps. And so there's actual 4 courses, and the kids can take these courses. If they take the test, pass it, with $55, they can actually get 3 credit hours for college in a humanities by doing this. Miss Williams is actually teaching this class for us. We have about 18 kids in that class. They are currently working on, I know when we did the construction, we took the memorial garden that was there, that was existing, and we moved that. they are recreating that for us. So today, under my door, they slipped a fundraising opportunity that they wanted me to sign off on, but they had drawn me a map of what they want to put in a new area on the campus, and they want it to be a celebration of life opportunity. So they want to do a butterfly garden, and they're going to do it right outside our science classrooms, and so they've all got that all mapped out and planned. So I was really excited about that. But if you get a chance to talk to Ms. Williams about that, I highly encourage you to it, because it's been pretty life-changing to get to work with this group of kids. And we will continue. There's 4 courses that they could actually take, so we will continue to offer those courses. The last thing I was going to talk about, but the agenda got switched up a little bit. So in a little bit, Barbara's going to talk about CTE month and the things that we're doing up there. I just want to highlight the CTE. From my side of the things, though, I just want to highlight our CTE. We have so many opportunities, and she's going to give you another brochure that we hand out to folks. We have so many career opportunities and pathways that those kids can take, and certificates that they can gain through our CTE. But they're singletons. It's like I have one foods teacher, I have one welding teacher, I have one carpentry teacher, and when you try to find something common to work on together as a professional learning team, that can get difficult. So they have had some really strong conversations, and they have come up with a common thing that they can all do, and so they are doing what's called performance assessments on our students every 30 days, just like if they were to go into the workforce and be working a job like that where they're going to have a performance review. It's similar to that experience. Part of that being is that department has left the workforce and come to education, so they know what that's about, and so they are great teachers of that. But I won't steal her thunder for all the great things that program's doing. I'll let you hear from her a little bit later. But a lot of great things going on at the high school. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have from any of that information that's there.
I sit here amazed. I mean, yeah, I used to be there back in the 1800s.
Dark ages.
You were there when I was there.
But I always felt that we're second to none. And what they're doing today puts what we did 30 and 40 years ago to shame. It is not even comparable in the high school, how they've grown, and they're growing now in leaps and bounds even faster.
Yes.
It's hard to keep up with. I am so proud of what you and your staff do, and I sincerely mean that. I mean, it's failed. I am so proud of that school, what they accomplish, and these kids and what they come out with. You just see it every day. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor to serve on this board for reasons like that right
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
It is, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
She's going to a ball game.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next month, Ms. Sutton will come, and she'll talk about the amazing things that are happening at East Elementary. And I looked at some data today, and they're outpacing the state in a lot of ways. So that's really exciting. We have an opportunity to supply a supplement to our instructional staff for the first time that I can ever remember. This money has come to us through this budget that the Senate and the House passed, I think, back in October. And they included funding for something called a low wealth supplement. Each county has been allocated a certain amount of money per teacher or instructional support personnel. Okay, I need to say that again. For each teacher or instructional support personnel. And those people have to have their salary tied to the teacher salary schedule. Okay, so now that leaves a group of people out, all right? And I understand that, but this money was designated for that purpose. They developed, I believe DPI developed a formula that is used for every county except for, I think it's 5 in the state. And those 5 are excluded because they are largely urban districts and they have a different funding, a different level of funding sources than some of us have, okay? We have been allocated $2,460 for each certified and instructional staff that are paid from state funds. That means that it didn't come to every single staff member, because we have some staff members that are funded through federal programs. We have some staff members that are paid on a local scale, because we have agreed that those pieces are important. And so, as we were looking at how to disperse this funding, I said we're going to give it to all of them somehow. Anyone who is an instructional teacher or an instructional support staff that is paid for that service. Looking at the number of people that we have right now, if we use that lump of money that came from the state, it's going to, we really aren't exactly sure exactly to the dollar right now how much is going to go where, or how much, we don't know where every single dollar is going yet. But we're looking at somewhere around $2,240 per staff member. Okay, that's so that we can use that sum of money for all of the staff and not just for a select group. Okay, we had to come up with a plan on how to do that, and so what we have devised is for teachers who were hired on or before September 30th, 2021, and are employed through March 1st, they will receive a pro rata share of 1/2 of an allotment. Okay? That basically means if they worked that half of a year, they get half of an allotment. Okay? Now, for certified teachers and instructional support who are hired in a permanent, and this is all for permanent employees, for a permanent full-time position on or before February 14th, and employed through May 1st of 2022, they will receive another pro rata share of half an allotment. That means if a teacher's been working here all year long, they get a full allotment. If they've been working here basically half a year, they get half an allotment. I felt like using today as a deadline for that was important, because this would be the day that we vote on that. Okay? Now, that's a lot of information, I know. But at my heart, the goal is this: to supply all of our teachers and instructional support who would be paid from that type of a salary code to get a part of this as a supplement, to not leave anyone out, all right? And to use the funding that has been appropriated to us from the state for that purpose. Those are my goals, okay? Now, I would love, if you have questions, I would love to try and answer them, but the person who could answer them and probably be more succinct than I would be is Stephanie, okay? She's much better at that. Do you have any questions or any thoughts about that?
How many people are in this group that's gonna receive this additional?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. It'll depend on, once again, the hiring date. But it is for certified staff, so any certified teacher or instructional support staff.
Tommy, are you still here? Yeah. Do you remember a round number for that? It's hard to be specific without looking at the list in front of us. No? Okay.
It's okay.
I hesitate to really even try a number, because as soon as I do, I'll be proven wrong.
It's okay. I was just curious. It doesn't
Okay.
change anything.
Now, did I understand that the funding is there for next year for the?
Yes, it is. The
Right.
funding is there for next year. And I would like to propose, Mr. McKinney, that we approach it from a different perspective. And I have an idea that I have shared with a few people, but I want to sit down with teachers.
Okay.
And I want to say, this is how I want to do that. And let me explain why, okay? This gives me an opportunity to say something that needs to be said. We have teachers that are coming in, and they're making $35,000 a year with no experience. Now, you might be able to make a living doing that, but if you happen to have a family of any sort, there's not any way, okay? And with the cost of housing in Swain County and the surrounding area, you're not going to have any money left over at the end of the month, okay? That's not acceptable. And we're one of the few districts, I got to back off because I'm going to go to preacher mode real fast,
Preach.
okay? We're one of the few districts in North Carolina that doesn't offer a local supplement. We're one of 3 or 4. And that's one of the reasons that sometimes we struggle to hire teachers. And so I want to look at the money that we have, and I want to find a way to help those teachers in the first years have a higher salary through supplement so that they might have a little money left over at the end of the month and afford a place to live that you and I wouldn't mind to live in ourselves. And the other group that I'm really concerned about right now are our teachers that work from 15 to 25 years. When you hit 15 years under the state salary scale right now, you max out at $50,000 and there's no increase in salary for 10 years. 10 years. That means for 10 years, in the prime of their teaching career, they have actually less earning power and spending power than anybody else in the state. That's just flat wrong. So, I've preached.
Yeah.
Now, I've had my conversation, and beginning conversation, with the commissioners and with the people in the county. We've got to do better than this. And I want to establish a way to do that. And so, Kevin King, he's all ears right now. And we will continue to have that conversation. But that money that you were talking about, Mr. McKinney, that's the money we're going to use to put that in place. And then we're going to design it so we can do it every year after that as well. That's important to me.
Thank you.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't know if the public realizes this or not, but there is gonna be a time, and it's in the short future, it's in the near future. This means something to every parent in this county. We're not gonna have a teacher for
No.
your child. That's coming. I mean, right now, you can ask, and I've been doing this a couple of years, ask some of these seniors, I get to know them a little bit. And you ask them about if they wanna come back and teach in our schools, they laugh at me. They literally laugh at me. Absolutely out of the question. They're not gonna do it. It's gonna hit us, and it's gonna hit us hard. And our kids will pay the price for it. That's the bottom line.
I apologize for my passion on
No,
that.
we need that
I apologize
passion.
to you all I'm sorry. Our teachers, our people are good people, and they work hard. And they deserve to be recognized for what they do. I'll be quiet.
Answer the question, 166.
Okay.
I was gonna say 176. Okay. So in a little while, we'll bring this low wealth supplement plan to you. And if you want to have a discussion in any other way about that, I'd be happy to. But you heard what my motivation was in that. Okay.
Good plan.
We've got a group here that we have, are there any questions about any of that? I'm sorry. We have a group here who we have called through COVID essential and heroic. And we've talked about them, but we've never seen their faces. And so I've asked our food and nutrition staff to come in this evening so you can see their wonderful smiles and what beautiful people they truly are. They're not all here tonight, but they'd be just as beautiful if they were here. And I also want to say a word about Jennifer Brown. So could my food and nutrition staff please come up here? Come on.
Were you gonna say she really isn't leaving, right?
Nope. It's okay. You'll be all right. Jennifer, would you speak a word about this group and maybe help us know who they are? Because sometimes it's hard to see through a mask.
Okay. So, unlike Connor, I actually have a speech prepared. So when Mr. Sale asked me to recognize and highlight the accomplishments of the school nutrition staff tonight, I knew it was not going to be an easy task to fully express the impact that these people have on our children, our community, and on me. The last few years, they have shown me so much of who they are, and I thought I would give you a bit of an insider's look at what I see. So the first thing I see is that these ladies and men, we do have one man on staff, are hard workers. They don't ask why, but they ask how can we help. When school shut down during the height of the pandemic, they more than tripled the number of meals that they usually serve to make sure that everyone was fed, and that not only during the week, but on the weekends and holidays. And not just Swain County Schools kids, they were feeding all kids in the community, kids from the charter school, homeschool kids, and kids that were visiting. And all anyone needed to do was to walk into the cafeteria and see the frenzy of activity that was happening in there. So just to give you an example, I had one of the workers, I think it was Misty, came up to me and showed me on her Fitbit that she had gotten 17,000 steps before noon, I think, which is the equivalent of about 6 miles of walking in the cafeteria. Another role I see these cafeteria workers play is as educators. They educate kids about healthy eating and the importance of good nutrition and to doing their best in school. They also educate kids about the importance of good manners and gratitude by encouraging them to say please and thank you when getting their meals and cleaning up after themselves when they leave the cafeteria. They also educate staff and especially me about the child hunger in our community. So one of my earliest memories when I became school nutrition director was a story that they told me about kids coming in on Monday mornings, so eager to see them because they hadn't had a meal all weekend. So just imagine, many of us lament Monday mornings, going to work, going to school, but there's kids that are so eager to see these ladies' faces because they haven't had anything to eat all weekend. That story has had a profound effect on me as a child nutrition director, and it has literally guided every decision that I've made. And it is what has driven me to do everything I can to provide kids to access to healthy meals in every way we can by expanding our after-school meal programs, our summer programs. So that is the greatest lesson that they taught me. So lastly, they have shown me how to work together as a family and to support each other like a family. That includes how to forgive when we make mistakes, and especially when I've made mistakes, because I've made many. But that forgiveness has allowed me to grow and I think thrive in this position. So I thank them greatly for that. And I think that's one thing that I'll miss the most is just being a part of this family that we have in school nutrition. So I just want to say thank you to y'all for all you've done for me this past decade. But they are very appreciated.
If you weren't
Let's
watching,
treat them like conference.
yes, I agree. If you weren't watching while Jennifer was talking, a couple of these had tears in their eyes. And the sad thing tonight is that this is one of the last events that Jennifer will be with us at. Jennifer has decided to move even farther into the dark side, which is DPI. And the good thing is, even though she may not be working in our system, she's going to help guide our system. Because our hope is that this evening that you will approve Michelle Herron as her replacement. And Michelle is going to come into this job, and she is going to have the same passion that Jennifer has brought to it for the last decade. So I think that we're very fortunate for that. Very fortunate. Ladies, I have T-shirts for you as well. And they're sized. If they're sized incorrectly, it's her fault. You can trade them however you want to. Okay, so thank you so much for all you do for us. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
They're grouped by schools too. Mental health and social emotional learning has become almost a buzzword, but it's a very important part of what we're doing with our students and with our staff as well. And fortunately, the state has provided some additional funding for that, and we have stepped into that a little bit more deeply as a county. Brandon is going to come. He is required every year, I believe, isn't that right, Dr. Sutton, to give you a breakdown of numbers on where we have and who we have, okay, in those positions.
Yes, House Bill 75 requires us to report out the number of school mental health employees that we have. We have one full-time school psychologist on staff. We went several years with none, and we had to contract out for what we did get. We still contract out for 27, one lady works 27 hours doing school EC assessments and 5 hours a week doing mental health counseling. And then we also contract out for our 3 to 5 educational assessments with Western. Guidance counselors, we have four full-time equivalent positions. Social workers, we have 4 full-time equivalent positions. We do have one that joined in January. And then we've also brought our social workers up from 80% employees to 100% employees, so they're here 5 days a week. One of our social workers, we have 5 social workers. One of them is in the process of gaining her school guidance counselor certification, and she will be a school guidance counselor when that is all said and done. Nurses, we had 4.19 full-time equivalents, so we had 4 and then part of 1, and the part of 1 threw me off. So after I went and talked to Stephanie, we actually had 2 school nurses at East Elementary for about a week, as one transitioned out and one transitioned in. So that's how we got to 4.19. These numbers of employees is pulled from December payroll. So that is the number of employees for school mental health. Any questions?
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
We have a costumed individual in the building. The reason that she is dressed this way is because this is CTE month, and to celebrate CTE month, this is CTE week. And each day, our CTE students, staff, and director are supposed to look like something. And Barbara certainly looks like something. Well, I don't know if she's going to say this or not, but our foods class for the 3rd year in a row has competed in the junior chef competition, and they are a state finalist right now. And Barbara, I want to win, okay? I want to win. But if we can't win, we at least have to beat Parkwood, because Parkwood is where my son teaches. Okay, and I don't want to hear it.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure, Naira, if you're watching.
Yes, as Mr. Sales said, February is CTE month, and we're celebrating all month long, but we're really highlighting that this month. We have, for a small system in North Carolina, we have one of the best CTE programs there is, especially for our size. We have 10 pathways that we offer at our high school, and 2 program areas at our middle school that feed into those. 3 of the 10 pathways that we have at the high school are CCP programs where they can gain college credits. And as you can see in the brochure that I handed you out, that is one of the brochures that we started using with our 8th graders to transition and give them an idea of what they could take at the high school and how it could advance them through high school, college, and possible career choices on there. That highlights all of our pathways, though. Also, we are looking at adding a marketing position, which will be the hospitality pathway that you'll see on your brochure. We're hoping to add that this spring to be a class that we can offer in the fall. We're really excited about that. Currently, at the high school, we are finishing the barn. And once we're done with that, we would love for you guys to come up and tour the whole school, especially CTE classes, and the barn. So once we have that, we'll hopefully get that on the calendar for you guys. But we're in the last parts of getting it wired up. We're also going to be adding a new greenhouse, and there may be some discussion about that later tonight. But the way the road is being built, it needs to move our greenhouse, and it was actually cheaper to build a new greenhouse than to relocate the current greenhouse. So we're looking at that.
Like I said, this week is CTE week, and today is FCCLA, which is Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, and it's red and white, so that's why I'm dressed like this for tonight's meeting. Tomorrow is FFA Day. Wednesday is HOSA Day, which is Health Occupation Students of America. Thursday is Dress as Your Future Occupation, and Friday is Skills USA. So that's any of our skills and trades jobs. Some exciting news that we have going on from our clubs within CTE. Our junior and senior teams with forestry will be competing, and that's 8 students. That'll be this summer. They'll be competing for that. HOSA, I believe we're taking around 16 students to compete for that for state. Skills USA is just now starting up for the year as far as the regional competition and state. Regional is in March and state is in April. And we are hoping to take 14 students to regionals, and we won't know until that how many advance to state. And as Mr. Sell mentioned, Junior Chef, they are making the dish shredded chicken nachos. So, tacos, I'm sorry, not nachos, tacos. So, if you'll have good thoughts for Miss Naira and her team for Junior Chef.
So I'll tell you what, Barb, let's do. Let's schedule a day when these folks on a Friday, be best, yeah? When these folks can come to the high school and they can have shredded tacos,
Okay,
all right?
yeah.
And then you can show them the barn and you can walk them around and we can visit. Because I think we're at a point now where we can get back in the schools. Would you like that?
It'd be excellent.
Okay.
That would be great.
We'll schedule that within the next month or so. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's great. And then also, Ms. Blankenship spoke about test results, and I also wanted to mimic what she said with the great things going on in the CTE program. We are measured a little differently than everybody else, and the proof of learning for CTE is based on state assessments, project-based measurements, and credentials. So each course is a little different. And we had 6 classes in the fall that took state assessment or local assessment, and 87% of those scored proficient. So that was a great indicator. 100% of our students achieved proficiency for project-based measurements, and that means during the semester they work on basically a portfolio of things that they have to check off during the semester, and they all achieved that. And then credentials, which is huge, that's for drafting, Adobe, foods, health science, and career management. We had students earn 175 credentials just at the high school. And some of those credentials include Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Premiere, Autodesk, AutoCAD, and Inventor, and First Aid, CPR, AED certifications, OSHA healthcare, industry certifications, Stop the Bleed, food handler certifications. We have a Serve Safe student, and we had students achieve the Conover Workplace Readiness Credential. So I just wanted to share a little bit about our CT department because we have a great department, and we would love for you guys to come visit. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are you going to be dressed as tomorrow? Okay, we'll come visit and see. There are 30 board policies for you to review. I've grouped them into 3 sections. I want to thank Cody and Kim for spending a couple of hours looking at some of these with us. We didn't look at all of them because I believe that a lot of them are just clerical kind of things, you know. And that's how we divided them for you. They are all available in your Google Drive, and I think that Mr. McKinney has print copies. And if you all want print copies, we can do that as well. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. You might want to take a couple of notes on this. The Technology Responsible Use Policy has a couple of things in it that Ms. Cook has added, and one of those is found on page number 3. It's actually an addition that was given by Campbell Shatley, our legal team. And it talks about our staff can disclose student directory information unless the parents opt out of that. And so what we have to make sure of is the parents understand at the beginning of the year, because this policy goes home to the parents every year, that they can opt out of having student directory information. Now, that's not private information. That's just kind of public information about the student's name and things like that, okay? but Campbell Shatley is recommending that. I would ask you to look at that carefully and decide if that's a direction that you want to go. Also, I would encourage you to please look very carefully at page number 7. This is section G2, I believe, and it talks about employee personal websites, not professional, personal websites. Okay, and there are some direct instructions about employees not using personal websites to communicate with students or social media unless they have permission from the principal. Okay, please pay attention to that. Now, these are first readings, so I would encourage you to read over that, and if you have thoughts and questions, give me a call, and then we can talk about them some more the next time. Another one that I would encourage you to look at is policy 3420, which is student promotion and accountability. And the reason that I think that you need to look at that, this policy is, if it is followed in detail, it may increase retentions, okay? And that's not just from us. The state is expecting for students to be reading at certain levels, K through 3, okay? And that is the best place for us to catch reading deficiencies. Now, we are applying all kinds of resources and all kinds of energy to make sure that that kind of thing doesn't happen. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes students learn to read and become prepared to read at different times than others, all right? That's why our summer program can be so important and things like that. Look at that very carefully, and we need to make sure that as we go through that parents understand this is not just us, it's also the state. Graduation requirements, that's policy number 3460. The only reason I have that one there is because Barbara and Sonia have looked at this, and they have chosen to strike out a tremendous amount of it. And the reason that they want to strike that out is they've put a section on the first page that takes you to a website at DPI that has all of that information in it. And this information that's being struck out gets changed all the time. There are different requirements for the freshmen for 4 or 5 different years. So this policy gets to be 25 pages long. And what Barbara and Sonia are suggesting is that we take that out and just say, look at that website if you want to know more, because it will be current and up to date all the time. I think that's really wise. Domicile residence requirements, that's 4120. I want you to look at it because what we did was put in the first part of that what the domicile proof requirements are. They include things such as a notarized rental or purchase agreement, a utility bill, car insurance, and there's even a place where the person can take a form to the landlord and have them sign it. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be notarized, okay? But I thought that would be good for us to have that information in there so that in the future we won't be saying, well, wait a minute, how can we prove this? It's just information, okay? I think that it's fair, and I will tell you that I didn't come up with these. I stole them out of Henderson County. So if Henderson County does it, it's got to be good, right? At least one person got my joke. And then there's the attendance policy, which we've been talking about for quite a bit. And one of the things that we have done is we have actually, now let me explain this, okay? We have actually increased the number of parent excuses. That means a parent can write a note and say, Mitch was out for yesterday, and it's not just that it was Sunday and he wasn't supposed to be at school, but he was out for a reason, okay? We've increased that to 6, but it's 6 per year, and at the high school it's 3 per semester. And the reason that we put that in there is we have been trapped a little bit into having to have 5 in the spring semester and 5 in the fall semester, which is actually 10. That's a lot of that's a lot of absences, okay? So 6 is an increase, but at the same time, it allows us to get our hands wrapped around that just a little bit more. There is also a section in here on page number 2 that has to do with educational trips, okay? And those can be approved by the principal, and there will be some requirements for those, but those are fairly flexible. And if you put parent notes and educational trips, it allows us to take care of our families who may not be able to travel in the summer. And I know that that was a concern last time, okay? But at the same time, we can get our hands around attendance, because that's one of the most important pieces of coming to school. You can't learn if you're not there, okay? So I would It also includes that at 6 days, right, Brandon? Brandon, are you still here? 6 days we have mediation, and at 8 days we have a truancy council, which includes DJJ, Department of Social Services, so that we can help our parents whose kids are missing a lot. We can help them develop a plan, and then we can hold each other accountable. Okay? So please take a look at policy 4400, and if you have any questions or any concerns, please let us know. The rest of them, I would especially encourage you to look at the secondaries. If you don't have anything else to do, look at that group. That's the last group, okay? It's mostly just small changes, okay? Went pretty fast on that because it can get pretty boring pretty quick. Any questions or thoughts? Barbara alluded to the fact that we need a new greenhouse. We have already had conversation about this, and we have come to agreement in principle that we need to go ahead and approve that contract so that we can get the materials here. And so this evening, when we get to the action items, I will be asking you to approve that greenhouse contract that you have already seen. It's gone through Campbell Shatley. There have been changes that were made that are to our benefit in a lot of ways. But we've got to get
And
that.
before I forget, a change in the road, we got a new contact for it. It'll be Chris Lee and Zach. Mr. Zach has moved on to another job out of our office.
Well, God bless him. Good for him. So Chris is our contact for the road.
Chris Lee. There'll be somebody to fill his position shortly, but.
Okay, all right. Work should start on that in the late spring,
Yes.
after baseball, okay?
Yes.
We need to have another meeting this month, and the reason we need to have another meeting is because we need to have a deep discussion about budget. And Stephanie would like for us to set a date aside and come together for a special called meeting, and we can also talk about facilities at that time because we have a facilities meeting with Travis and with Mitch and commissioners tomorrow night, okay? So Stephanie, do you have a date that you would like to pick on that?
Whatever works for the board.
Okay, do you want it next week or the week after?
Next week is good.
Okay,
They can make that work for Thursday.
okay. If you're gonna do it next week, I would encourage you to choose Thursday of next week, because I would like to be at that meeting. And Monday and Tuesday, I'll be involved in interviews.
Next week.
Yes. Now, if that
Let's
won't
put it,
work,
let's put out to make the Monday after, I'll be gone late
Okay.
next week.
I'll be gone as well next week.
Okay. How, you go when?
I'll be gone next week.
Okay.
so
What
if we,
about that Monday, the 28th?
28th?
Would that work?
Trying to think.
Let's make it
If it's what-
tentative, and if there's a problem, we could change that, okay? 28th
That work for you, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay.
at 6, and we
Yeah.
can meet in here. I'll see if we can anyhow. Will you check on that for me, please? Didn't I do well today? I sent you a
Yes, you did.
text.
You did very well.
All right. Those are all of the discussion items. I would ask that we spend a little time in closed session so that we can catch up on some personnel issues, okay?
I move the Swain County School Board go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not a public record under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor by show of hands? We'll be back shortly, and then, we've just got a little bit left. All right, let's call the meeting back to order. These are for action items. Mr. Sale.
We have several personnel items tonight. I recommend the Swain County Board of Education accept the resignation of Roberta Anderson as food service assistant at Swain Middle School effective January 7, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
Joanne, if I miss something, you catch me, okay, please? I recommend the Swain County Board of Education accept the retirement resignation of Sue Ellen Pigman as ESL tutor at Swain East Elementary effective March 1, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education accept the resignation of Tony Cochran as JV football assistant coach effective January 20, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education accept the retirement resignation of Regina Ash as title, I think that's supposed to be Title I, but after school and STEM director effective March 1st, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
We'll have a retirement gathering. That'll be a drop-in for Regina. I would encourage you to take 5 or 10 minutes and come by and just tell her thank you. Okay, she's given her lifeblood to the school system. I recommend the Swain County Board of Education accept the resignation of Jennifer Brown as school nutrition director effective February 26, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education accept the resignation of Steve Walls as data manager, testing coordinator at Swain High School effective February 21, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Roberta Anderson as substitute food service effective February 1st, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Regina Parks as temporary EC teacher assistant at Swain West Elementary effective January 19, 2022. That's temporary EC teacher assistant at West Elementary.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Cabot Cochran as middle school baseball head coach.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ B.J. Ledford as middle school baseball assistant coach.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Kenneth Haney as JV baseball head coach at Swain High School.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Brooke Matthews as after-school assistant at Swain Middle School effective January 12th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Matthias Palmer as temporary teacher assistant at Bright Adventures Pre-K effective January 31, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Haley Bradshaw as temporary teacher assistant at Swain East Elementary effective February 7, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Michelle Herron as school nutrition director effective February 28, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor by show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Matthew Smith as temporary teacher assistant at Swain Middle School effective March 15, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor by show of hands? Motion is carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Sandra Arvey as temporary teacher assistant at Swain West Elementary effective March 15, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion is carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Matthias Palmer as middle school assistant track coach effective February 15, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion is carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education employ Shelby Hyatt as middle school assistant track coach effective February 15, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion is carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education approve the low wealth teacher supplement plan as it was presented.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion is carried.
The next item is C, and that has to do with the masking policy. And you will need to make a motion according to how you want that to be stated.
I move to make face masks optional. This to begin on February 21st of 2022. Face masks will still be required pursuant to the North Carolina toolkit after a positive test. This motion is not intended to override any CDC directives. We strongly encourage those to continue to wear masks.
Motion.
Good. All right.
Or
That
second.
was
That's the motion.
Okay. Any
Second.
further discussion? All in favor by a show of hands? Any opposed? All right, it's carried 4-1.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education approve the greenhouse contract as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by a show of hands? Motion's carried.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education approve the consent agenda, including small county low wealth signing bonus and the minutes of the January 10, 2022 regular meeting and closed session.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by a show of hands? Motion's carried.
Do we have any public comment?
Well, okay, we've got 2 for public comment. Again, I remind you that you have 3 minutes to address the board. We do not ask questions, we do not discuss it, we'll listen, and we encourage comments from the public. That's not a problem for us. I would also remind you that we do not listen to or do we accept any comments concerning personnel or students. Those are personnel matters. We have nothing to do with that because we're an appeals board, so we can't listen to those. So if you have something that has to do with personnel, you need to contact the superintendent, and he can take care of that and help you with that. All right, first person would be Paula Parton. Cody, you gonna?
I've got a timer
You
right
got
here.
time?
Yeah.
Okay.
God woke me up Thursday night, February the 10th, to give me these words after a very vivid dream where I was standing before you speaking. When I got up, I knew I had to write the questions he had down for you. A legal pad was laying there with these words on it, divine image destroyed, with this verse, Esther 3:8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of the kingdoms, and their laws are diverse from all the other people. Neither keep they the king's laws, therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written, that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. I want to believe that the believers in this county are a set-apart people, like the children of Israel, that Haman tried to destroy. The human cell is a walled palace guarding the sacred scrolls of our DNA. Only trusted messengers are allowed into the hallowed place. In the nucleus of the cell, orders are issued by the DNA, carried by the messenger RNA through the nucleus wall. As previous research God gave me showed, his name is encoded on our DNA. What happens when cells are deprived of oxygen? Acidosis sets in. What are the symptoms? Headache. Are you noticing more headaches among staff and students? Fatigue, confusion, shortness of breath, kidney stones, kidney problems? Did you know that some of the teachers are taking points off when they see a student with their mask below their nose so a student can breathe? Are children being made to participate in PE wearing masks? I pray that we have not received any money to mask our children. And the Lord formed man from the dust of the earth and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. The Spirit of God hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. If he set his heart upon man, if he gather unto himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh shall perish together, and man shall turn again unto dust. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. I love each and every one of you. If I did not, I would not be here. We have to do what God's word leads us to do, even if it's against the laws of the land. Father, I pray that you will bless this board with godly judgments and right rulings, that you will keep them from harm, that you will make your face to shine upon and be gracious unto those that do your will, that you will lift up your countenance upon them and give them the peace that is only found in you. But most of all, Father, I pray that you will open their eyes to see the truth and draw their hearts nigh to you, so that you can place your name upon them. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 says, What, know you not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God? Ye are not your own, for you are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. I truly believe that we are living in the last days. I truly believe that we are living in the day where if he didn't shorten the days, there would no flesh be left alive. We're seeing it. There's a 40% increase in the deaths since all of this started, especially the vaccinations. And I wish y'all well, and I want to thank you from the depths of my heart that you have voted to let the parents hold the ball and be responsible for their children and their life.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Lisa Loftus.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak tonight. First of all, I want to say when I came tonight, I actually didn't plan on saying anything, but I kind of decided that I really needed to, and so I really appreciate you voting. Obviously, if you know me at all, you know that I was going to say that and plead my case on the masks. So, and since I don't have to do that, then I'm actually going to take this moment to bring up something that I truthfully don't know a lot about, and so this is the best place to do that. This has to do along the lines of, I guess, what would be considered health reasons and how that plays into discussion in the school from faculty. So if this is something that is a policy or maybe could be edited or made into a policy or reworded, I feel like the past several months have been, there's a lot of opinions flying around, and the kids are getting it obviously at home, but also at school. And I'd like to see that changed to where when they're at school, mainly the issue of vaccines is not discussed. And so since we are in a different time now where those kind of things are brought up, everything's very, I guess everything's just politically charged. And so I know in the past, it's like, well, you don't talk about religion or you don't talk about, you know, A, B, and C. And so maybe that's something we could put into a policy so that my kids from 2nd grade, you know, 5th grade aren't coming home saying things about if I'm vaccinated, then I don't have to wear a mask. Or, you know, I was told today I should vaccinate because that would help COVID go away. So as a mother, my personal opinion is that we're not getting the vaccine. I'm okay to say that, but I also wouldn't like that to be a school discussed issue. I hope that makes sense. Thank you guys for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, I think that's all we've got on, the comments. Anything else, Mr. Sale?
Yes, sir. One of the things that you heard while Ms. Blankenship was speaking was about how there are discussions between teachers now, and she described them, you know, that sometimes they're fairly passionate. Those are the PLC meetings that we've been setting up, and that's the reason that they're there, that they're taking that time. There's a PLC workday on February 25th of this month. There will be a couple more of those throughout the rest of the year. But I need the public to know, and I want you to know, that those times are not wasted, that there are strong conversations that are happening, and that it's improving our education at this point. And I think we need to continue those. As a matter of fact, those will probably be in our calendar that we will be presenting to you, I'm hoping, in April for approval. We should be able to have it by then. Your next board meeting outside of the special session will be March the 14th. Okay? I need to tell you that we have transferred Vanessa Frazier from the attendance assistant to data manager and testing coordinator that Steve Walls just resigned from. I went ahead and made that move because we needed someone in that position now. ACTs are in 2 weeks, and Vanessa has to be trained. Okay? And she was in the attendance position, which is a daily critical position, and so we've moved Allison Wiles out of a COVID nursing assistant into that position also. And then we will advertise, Randy, correct? We will advertise for a COVID nursing assistant. That process is legitimate and legal. I've spoken to Chris about it, and Tommy's spoken to Chris about it. So we're in a good place with that. Just want to make you aware of those things. Okay? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the agenda is complete.
Okay. Anything else? We are adjourned. Thank you.